Star Trek will not be presented tonight, so that we may bring you the following special program.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
I'm Alex Ross.
I read a huge number of the regular books published by Marvel because they do have some of the best writers and artists working, and often if you're going to have really engaging artwork, they're not always going to be working on their own independent thing. They're often going to be trying to be paid the best buck that they can get, which is going to come from these major companies.
In some ways, I'm looking for that thing that will make you go, oh, no, there's something to pay attention to. Maybe I can learn from that. And then you have the chance of seeing something and feeling like, wow, this person did this thing that I've never even conceived of, and now I feel very humbled, you know. So, and I collect loads of people whose work I'm regularly amazed by.
Welcome back, everybody. Time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Happy to welcome Paul Cornell back
Hello.
to Word Balloon. Great to see you, man.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, man. As I was telling you off the air, happy that you finally were able to do the wrap up to Saucer Country, which just came out from Image. I think this week. I think it was earlier this week.
Yep, it was this Wednesday. Yeah.
So yeah, you and Ryan Kelly, fantastic series.
Thank you. I'm so delighted and relieved. This is Image, courtesy of Syzygy, Chris Ryle's difficultly named comics company.
Okay.
And this is the finale. This is if you've bought and read every issue of Saucer Country up until now, this is all you need to finish the story. And we felt that was really important. We've got the huge completed collection, which has been sent to our Zoot backers right now, as has a different version of this finale. And I emphasize different because people who buy each will get a completely different design experience thanks to our wonderful designer, Ian Chalgrim. But we thought it was really important that our loyal readers should be able to just buy the one small thing to finish. And the completed collection is absolutely gorgeous. But the single issue is also a lovely design experience. And Ryan has kicked it out of the park. Bless him. He was going through some serious difficulties in life during this, and he still produces some of his best art. And I love the fact he's had a career renaissance in the last year or so with continuous work for Titan and people like that. And he is the artist for one of my styles. He is the artist for, and yeah, love him.
I hear you, man. I've been a fan since Local back in the day, and I have diligently followed Saucer Country from its original publisher to now finishing with Ryle's imprint at Image. Dennis Hoffman, love Paul's writing, and Ryan Kelly's incredibly underrated. Ryan's Paul, your Lex Luthor action run is still one of the all-time best Luthor stories. Oh, that's nice.
Very sweet of you, Dennis. Thank you.
Pretty cool, man. Yeah, and everyone that's watching live, please, if there are DC or Marvel questions, whether it's Captain Britain, MI 16? Was that
13?
13. Thank you, man. All right. And also, the last time Paul and I talked, we discussed your Radio 4 audio drama, Splinter Cell, Firewall.
Yeah.
And, honestly, Paul, and I know all of your fantastic work on Doctor Who through Big Image and certainly the novels as well. But I'm always excited when someone I know has written a new audio drama, and this was fantastic.
And we won the Scribe Award, which I'm delighted by. I attend the Scribes religiously at San Diego, They are the awards for the spin-offery for people who write in other people's universes.
Yeah.
And I did not see that coming. My great close person, Liz Miles, who I do the Hammer House of podcast with, she had a nominated audio as well that day. And so it was a lovely day, and it was a delight to win it.
I love going went to the Scribe Awards when I'm in San Diego, and it's fantastic because and I don't know, I haven't been there in a couple of years, but it's usually, it's just another panel room, but really you got guys like Marv Wolfman and Jonathan Mayberry and yourself and Max Collins when he's in San Diego, and all these terrific writers that have taken existing properties and made new things with them. So that's great to hear for Liz, and I'm so glad you won for that. That's fantastic.
Really pleased. And we're picking up a lot of attention for the Tom Clancy, and it was a lovely, lovely project to do.
Will you be doing more audio writing in the near future? I don't know what you can and can't say, obviously.
It's a big possibility.
Fair enough. Well, and honestly, I'm so glad that both DC and Marvel, even in particular, have leaned into audio drama. See, you guys are spoiled in the UK and in other parts of the world where audio drama never went away.
Yeah, absolutely. Radio 4, and which you can access for free anywhere in the world, thanks to the iPlayer. You can't do that for the TV. You can find the radio anywhere. There's about 5 or 6 radio dramas a week. Plus, on Radio 4 Extra, the entire BBC archive of classic drama. So, how wonderful is that?
100%, man. No, it really is terrific. Another comment from Dennis. Really enjoyed Paul and Mike Hawthorne's Wildcard. Yeah, absolutely, man. And we've talked about that before as well. Yeah. So was George R. Martin involved with? And remind people of your Wildcard character that you introduced.
Oh, yes. This was the adaptation of the first Wild Cards novel in George R. R. Martin's universe. I adapted it for Marvel in four issues with Mike Hawthorne to start. And George was immensely involved. We had him, Melinda Snodgrass, who's also very much at the heart of Wild Cards, and a couple of the other writers actually filling in extra detail. This was one of the lovely things that when there have been retcons further down the line in the Wild Cards books, like when a character is revealed to have been in a scene that was shown in one of the early stories, we got to actually put it in the comic adaptations.
Oh, that's great.
So that was a wonderful project, and I'm hoping we can do more. We are waiting on trade sales. We're waiting for the market to perk up, but it's we very carefully started at the beginning so we can carefully and gently go on at other intervals, and I was delighted by that.
So Paul, was this recent, or was, because I remember oh my God, I totally missed this, and shame on me, because I remember the other graphic novels that came out of Wild Cards
I think
years and years ago.
I think this was last year. Yeah.
I'm so sorry I missed it, Paul, because I'm a massive fan, and I'm conflating what you did in the with Mike Hawthorne with your contribution of an original story and character from the Wildstorm, the Wild Cards universe.
Absolutely, yes. And but no, Mike was wonderful on the first 2 issues, and then because we were adapting a different story, we had Enid Ballum on the second 2 issues.
Oh, excellent!
And lovely.
But remind me of your character. It had something to do with acting.
She's called the understudy, and she picks up other people's superpowers like Wi-Fi without wanting to, and so she will just be walking down the street and she'll burst into flame, and it's and she's continually annoyed by this because she's a serious actor. And she wants to pursue a career in legitimate theatre, which is very difficult when, you might suddenly grow an extra arm or something.
I have to. Well, I'm glad I've got Marvel Unlimited, because I'm sure, hopefully, it's on there.
I believe it is. Yeah.
Oh, excellent to hear. But also, I don't know why, man. And then again, I've been reading the wild cards since Aces High came out. Jesus, almost 40 years ago now. We're going very close to 40 years ago.
Oh, and it's kept going in real time.
Yes, absolutely. And there's a level of realism I always felt, and even your description of the understudy and everything shows that, where it's not like, all right, I'm here and or whatever, and then it really is more like, God damn it, what
Yes.
power's going to kick off now? And that's so fantastic. And that's the thing. There's this level of humor, and of course, great pathos for characters like Golden Boy. Right? Am I correct? Isn't he the Captain America pastiche,
Yep.
basically? Yeah. Oh, such a rich series of books. I know everybody, Game of Thrones, I get it. But even when I briefly met George, I'm like, listen, Game of Thrones is great, but we're all like, fingers crossed that Wild Cards finally makes it to series. And Paul, as a television writer, I'd love to see you be part of that. I certainly hope so.
Well, stuff's happening.
Really? Actually, see, there we go.
No. I don't mean stuff's happening. I mean stuff's happening. That was not a big announcement. That was just that, as always, the process of development continues in the background. No news as yet, and I'm not aware of any series commission, certainly. But yeah, but stuff is happening.
All right, fair enough. Paul, were you impacted at all by last year's writer's strike and the production shutdown?
Yeah, I mean, the way that the kind of freezing of everything extended into the comics business, and because suddenly the companies that were relying on options being taken out on owning IP found that they didn't know what their future was going to be. And certainly in Britain, I could keep on writing on British shows because we have a different union and a different structure. But I got approached, which is awful. It's like, oh, you only like me when all your writers have gone on strike.
Oh,
and I told them where to go.
Wow. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. And there was also a very no, I better not go into too much detail, but there was some scurrilous attempts to conceal the nature of what was being offered as well. So yeah, not good. But I absolutely did not cross a picket line, and yeah, it made San Diego a very different experience actually, without the TV and movies being there. But yeah, still, I'm glad the strike has been resolved, especially in such a good way that the guild got a good deal. But nothing, not the unfreezing is not happening nearly fast enough, and it feels like everything is still stuck in a low gear right now, and especially with the terrible things happening in the gaming industry, the number of people being laid off. But anyway, I digress. Sorry.
No, all part of this the conversation, and truly, I'm keeping tabs through my membership in the Screen Actors Guild. They put the broadcast people in the Screen Actors Guild a couple of years ago, so I'm a member. I'm a member and a client. But yeah, so I've seen the gaming side still kind of wrestling with things. Yeah. Here, some comments from the audience. Zach says, Mr. Cornell, so awesome to hear from you, and an absolute huge fan of your Captain Britain and MI13, and of course Doctor Who. Highly recommended that run to everyone. Hope all is well.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. I love my time on Captain Britain, and it's just one of the best experiences I've had in comics.
You know, I just had Brian Hill on, and Brian is doing a Blade series right now, and you know, brought Dracula back in a different way, and it immediately came to mind the way you used him in Captain Britain and MI13. And I just adore seeing Dracula in the Marvel universe and being a Doctor Doom level threat. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Man.
Absolutely. I love the way the Avengers have been using him lately as well.
Absolutely, very cool. You know, I had forgotten we had talked years ago about. Did I put up the cover? Yes. Your Shadow Police, and I had forgotten that you'd made this great Sherlock Holmes third book a while ago, a couple of years ago.
very, very much a couple of years ago. Um, I get asked about that more than anything else. I'm
Really?
yeah, people love those three books and they really want there to be a fourth. And all I can say is one day. I put I moved heaven and earth to finish Saucer Country, and I will finish the Shadow Police as well. I really want to finish my career having finished all my stories.
I understand. Well, let's not say bucket list yet, Paul. You're a young man still.
Oh
Um,
yes, oh yes.
so was this blog tour? Was this years ago when it first came out that you
This
that you
was
did it?
this was really, really a long time ago. Yeah, I'd actually forgotten every detail. Like, I went on a blog tour. Huh? Okay, um, but my mind is like this. My memory is completely full of Swiss cheese holes.
Well, it's all right, man. You're making new memories and stuff. And you're pointed towards you're pointed forward and everything. You shouldn't
I
just
always am. I always am.
I absolutely respect that. No, definitely. I've always appreciated your work on Elementary, and I mean, it seems given the years now that have gone by on Moffat and Gaddis's Sherlock, that we may never get a fifth season. I would imagine. I mean, certainly everybody, including I don't know. Again, they're buddies of yours, but I hope I'm wrong. But
Well, yeah. I mean, I would hate to speculate, mainly because if I speculated, any single word that crossed my lips might become a headline article on the internet somewhere. So, no, I've got no idea.
Understood. Mike Jones jumping in with another positive comment about Captain Britain and MI13. Massive thank you to Paul and the art teams for that run. Paul Kirk, or was it? No, not Paul. It was Leonard Kirk, right? Didn't he?
Leonard Kirk, yeah.
Yeah.
Did such great work on Avengers Inc. recently. And thank you for mentioning my take on Doctor Doom. I always like it when I can give Doom something genuinely honorable to do. And in this case, it was because Dracula is such a fascist bigot that basically Doom recognizes that Dracula has persecuted his own people, the Roma, as well. And so while concealing these motives quite thoroughly at the start, he's determined to give Dracula a kicking, and he eventually does.
That's outstanding, man. Yeah. It's again, when they rubbed against each other, that was one of the highlights of your run. No question. God, I hope they find a reason, and also with a different Captain Britain these days, to bring you back to that. Would you like to write the new Captain Britain?
I would love to.
Right.
I miss Pete Wisdom terribly, and I think the new run has been tremendous, and I love the new things they're doing. The continuing presence, the way Al Ewing loves Faiza Hussein and keeps on bringing her back in little ways. There's stuff like that. I'd like to gather that cast back together again and see how they get on.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that, and of course your Wisdom miniseries as well. Another great hallmark there. Are the doors open for you in Marvel? Are you pitching?
I have friends there. I went to see Tom Brevoort last time I was in New York, and I got invited to go and see the Loki premiere, which was lovely.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and because of Sylvie, who is maybe a little bit to do with my version of her in Young Avengers. I don't know. So that was really nice. And Tom's a lovely chap. He has a straightforwardness that people in comics actually find disconcerting. He will just tell you what he means. And for a lot of comics professionals used to things being slightly more around the houses than that can be terribly difficult to deal with. But his wonderful newsletter, Man with a Hat, is full of him just telling people who write in with questions the answers, which is an approach that stymies and confuses them more than you might expect.
That's great to hear. I had Chip Zdarsky on last week. He said the same thing, and he also appreciates Tom's frankness. And shame on me. I only just joined Tom's Substack. I didn't realize, and I always appreciated his blogs and also the videos that he would make, delving into comic history, and even just anecdotally, just sitting down with him and talking at a convention and stuff. No, great guy.
He does this. He does this game. He's a tremendously honest man, and that's lovely. He does this game whereby if he can do 20 questions with any Marvel character. You have a Marvel character in your head. You give him 20 yes/no answers. He will find that character, no matter how obscure. It's lovely.
That's great, man. When we were stuck in COVID, and I did a couple online conventions, we arranged for him and Mark Waid to sit down and basically swap Silver Age trivia and thoughts and stuff, and it was just terrific. I mean, I'm like, I wasn't even on the video. I'm like, you guys don't need me. Just go. Just start talking. And it was terrific. So no, I hear what you're saying, man. So new Doctor Who, we finally got the Christmas special, Ncuti Gatwa, and forgive me, I forget the actress's name, the new companion.
Millie Gibson.
Thank you. Absolutely. That's great. I love his vibe. And I really enjoyed the Tenet specials and understood the reasons why. But finding a way in the narrative to explain why Tenet is back, and even still more mystery still kind of left on the table, I suppose. Yeah. But I'm glad Russell Davies is back. I'm excited for what's to come once the new season begins in the spring.
I think there are some genius things going on here. Giving a doctor a happy ending, which no doctor ever gets. That's tremendous. And especially that doctor, the one who was more burdened than any other, the really, really angst-ridden one. I mean, he must sort of sit there in the house, thinking, oh, I'll do some gardening today. And think every now and then it must occur to him, I don't want to go, and I don't have to. And but the new doctor is tremendous. That relentless energy that he's going to sort this out, he's going to work out what's going on, he's going to do it at high speed, and he's the most competent person in the room. There's something of Tom Baker about that stride, about I'm here, I will fix this. And also the happiness, he actually has not been burdened. He's had the therapy. And I was just delighted with every choice. And typical Russell to take that wonderful, new, huge creation of stuff that Chris Chibnall came up with, which was so useful and added so much to the Who-universe. And to boil it down to that incredibly relatable Christmas Day on BBC One, I'm an orphan too. That's amazing. And I watched it in context on BBC One on Christmas Day. That is to say, I went down the pub at lunchtime. I came back, watched the King's speech, and then watched the animation before Doctor Who and watched Doctor Who. I watched BBC One all throughout Christmas Day, and it made immense sense in context. And third biggest rating on Christmas Day on BBC One. That's enormous. That's people don't get this in terms of the shows that Doctor Who is seen as being in the same genre as, science fiction and fantasy shows. Doctor Who is, in terms of the number of people that watch it, surely the biggest. Anything on a streamer is not going to get over 1 million. Nope. And there's Doctor Who with 7. And
that's just domestically as well, correct? Those are just UK numbers. 7 million. Go on, keep going, Paul.
And add to that the new and quite immense Disney Plus audience. Doctor Who's the biggest SF show on the planet, and Russell knows how to make popular telly, and the way that Christmas Day episode was pitched so it did something fun every 30 seconds. And you could, and this is something Russell once said to me, people are going to go out and make a cup of tea and come back in and not pause it. They're going to come in late. You got to keep telling them what's going on. You got to keep telling them what the idea is.
Yeah.
And the fact that in the middle of all that, we can get the Goblin King, the Goblin King. He's not a myth. He's an actual thing. That's the song. And the fact the Doctor joins in this, I could go on. I'm delighted. I've volunteered to go on the Shooty Gatwa panel at the Gallifrey 1 convention next week because I just want to rant about this.
That's fantastic, man. Well, and hey, Paul, seriously, and you're a modest guy, but all of us Whovian fans know how important your contributions to the Who universe is. And
long ago,
from Benny Summerfield, pardon me, or Bernie, right? They call it Bernie.
Bernice, but often Benny.
Okay, there you go. But I mean, everything, the Big Finish stuff, Father's Day, both the novel and then also, I'm conflating Human Nature.
Yep. Oh, and we had something announced yesterday. Liz Miles, who I mentioned earlier, my podcast partner, is adapting my Doctor Who novel Goth Opera for audio.
Hey, that's great. That's terrific.
So we get Vampire Nissa on audio with Sarah Sutton, which is going to be fun.
So is it just Sarah, Sarah, or is there a doctor in there?
Yeah, it's Peter Davison, Sarah, and Janet.
Outstanding! Oh, that's great.
With Richard Armitage as Rassilon, I kid you not.
Wow!
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah, Jesus, that's great, man. Oh God,
very pleased, very pleased.
No, that's so wonderful to hear. And then I saw a cover on your blog of a Pertwee story, and I know that they brought back, and maybe this was something old, but I know they brought back the Target style. I don't know if Target is still around to publish the adaptations, but and I know you did. Didn't you do one of the newer adaptations of one of the last Capaldi things, right? Or
I did the very last Capaldi.
With the first Doctor.
Yes.
God, I love the story.
And Stephen gave me a ton of his materials for that episode, and so I got to put in a lot of stuff that didn't make it to the final episode. That was a great pleasure. Very few notes on the book until the last chapter where Jodie appears, when suddenly I get my pages back and they're covered in yellow balloons of not this. Her footwear did not regenerate. That's a mistake that you've paused the video and seen. Stuff like that. But of course, because they want to get the first depiction in prose of the new Doctor absolutely right.
Sure.
And they also wanted her thoughts to be kind of obvious and generic in that moment because they had not yet revealed her character. And, they wanted to be the ones to do that in the show, as is right and proper. So, I lovely experience. And I'm really glad I did a Target.
That's outstanding, man. Also back to the Shooty debut. As you say, he doesn't have the baggage of the previous incarnations and can be so joyous. But that moment when he splits off from David Tennant and just hugs him, and just David Tennant can finally unclench. And really show how exhausted and frustrated he is at this moment, and that Shooty's there to just go, it's okay, I got it now, don't worry about it.
Can you imagine saying that to a young actor? In your first moments as Doctor Who, you're going to be sharing the screen with perhaps the most popular previous Doctor, and you're going to be co-starring with him for 5 minutes, and there you have to show off your own charisma, to some extent move on from him, and then show him the door. What kind of immense self-confidence do you need to pull that off? It's an incredibly tough assignment. It's and he does it. He's very careful to be on the same level for a little while, and then when he gets the TARDIS, the Bugs Bunny comes out, and it's
Well,
the getting the mallet and thumping another TARDIS out in a very cartoon character way, and there's something just so tremendously relatable is the wrong word. You want to be that cool, and the scene with the lady with the pram and the policeman was inserted months later, apparently because Disney Plus wanted our hero to appear earlier, which is a really useful and good note. It's Doctor Who with a new Doctor. You want to see it, and so Russell wrote that, and it just sums him up. In something written quite quickly to meet a studio note. He sums up the character of this new Doctor just precisely: the in chargeness, and then the compassion, and the really swift thinking, and thinking on a higher than human level with a deduction, and the comedy frustration of who's got a pram at this hour of the night, the genius of pop culture.
I can appreciate that. And also, man, Russell just hit the ground running, or at least I'm sure that there was a lot of planning going on, but it really did kind of like, all right, Daddy's home. The guy who brought the show back and really does, and no disrespect to Moffat and Chibnall, but no, I mean, it's like, this is the guy, man. And that's why I was like, okay, I will confess, Paul, that I had moments of frustration during the Chibnall run. I didn't agree with a lot of his choices.
This is difficult for me. He's a mate.
I understand. No, and God bless you, man. And truly, because I love Broadchurch. And didn't he also write on Life on Mars as well?
No, that's okay. Yeah, that's not him.
Okay, but that's the thing, man. No, I don't damn every writer with a broad stroke, and I have liked other things he's written. So
yeah. I'm but one. I always think that I'm happy to. I'm happy to. This is why I don't often do Doctor Who panels. I'm happy to hear negative comments, and absolutely fans should have space to do that. But I don't have to be in the room necessarily, or photographed on the same panel. That's.
I understand, man. Yeah. No, I totally do. And again, it's fine. It's just a difference of opinion. I wish him no ill.
Sure.
And I look forward to whatever his next assignment is.
Oh yeah, I don't know what he's doing. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Are you trying? Are you pitching for Russell to write new stuff?
Oh, not really. I mean, no. I mean, I feel I've sort of done it, and also I get out the way and let other people have a go, and it's been. I said a few years back that was definitely stopping Who in order to get myself a pile of a wider career with a pile of stuff, and I've kind of stuck to that this time. And it's nice to be in the audience again. It's I mean, having said that, if he phoned me up, I would be yes, I would bite his arm off. But I'm not about to go chasing it.
I understand. God, I'll tell you, you folks in the UK got so much more programming for the 60th anniversary. I don't know who uploaded on YouTube, and perhaps illegally, but they gave us the wraparounds of Tales of the TARDIS. And again, man, I so look forward to seeing these people when they do conventions. And I went to, I'm sure I've told you in the past, when it was, and this shows you how long ago it was, everybody, when it was the 20th anniversary of Doctor Who back in 1983. I saw at separate conventions Peter Davison, Tom Baker, and John Pertwee. And it's, I mean, as Paul said earlier, I mean, I'm a lifelong Doctor Who fan. As soon as I started seeing the Baker and the Pertwee reruns that we got here in the States, I was immediately hooked. It is such great writing, great ideas, and even on a shoestring budget, as the children's show had, you could still appreciate the imagination behind a lot of the ideas. So it was just so great seeing everybody back. And Sylvester McCoy and I are going to be at a convention together in the summer in Connecticut at Terrificon. And it'll be my first opportunity to meet him. And I'm so bummed I missed Davison when he came back to Chicago a few years ago, because he and his then wife, Sandra Dickinson, were together. And she told me, I didn't realize he was the dish of the day in the TV version of Hitchhiker's Guide.
The thing about Davison is he's a lead, but he's also a proper actor. He can totally lose himself in a part, as well as being somebody who can lead the ensemble, and that's a really rare thing. And you would not be surprised if a new TV drama was announced next week on BBC Two, BBC One, with Peter Davison as a detective. You'd go, oh yeah. And his career has just kept on going for such a long time.
I also felt, and I'm curious, again, as a lifelong Who fan yourself, he had the toughest job following Baker.
Gorgeous.
And I mean, we were really excited to get, at least in Chicago, new Doctor Who episodes. So here, and he even, I believe, preceded his episodes coming here. He did a signing at a local comic store, and then he did a proper convention. And Nick Courtney was there. I get to meet him, and Ian Martin, and Sarah and Janet were there too. And so, oh my God, it was like the excitement of my 13-year-old life. Meeting all these people. It was just fantastic.
That's tremendous.
Yeah. But how do you feel about, like I do, I kind of felt like Davison had the toughest replacement of all of them, frankly.
Well, yes. And he, being the great actor, he really held the roof up there. And I think he did a tremendous job. In something like Kinder, you cannot imagine Tom Baker doing that. And that's what, four stories past Baker, and we're already doing stuff where you can't imagine the leading man and that's what you're after, really.
I'm with you, man. Absolutely. Oh, interesting comment from M. Draka. Don't we have enough Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars, etc.? Time for new things. It's weighing down pulp culture. Thoughts?
I mean, I agree with you about Star Wars, but no, I'm Star Wars blind. I've never got it, and yeah,
wow.
But I'm a huge fan of some current iterations of Star Trek and Doctor Who. So I agree with your wider point. However, I think new franchises that can start from moment one would be really welcome. But can I keep my Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks as well, please?
I hear you, man. No, I'm with you. And also, listen, they've tried with good people, Valerian and now I'm blanking on the creator last year. And other ideas. And you listen, man. It's I don't know what to say in terms of why those things. I think in some cases it's the marketing, and it's certainly you can't beat the baked-in audience that the three IPs that you mentioned already have. Well, but I'm with Paul, absolutely, man. But I also think it's like they're trying. It's hard, and the other thing too, and Paul, speak to this because you're more probably cognizant of budgets than I am. But man, I really think this $1 billion imperative that the major studios have to succeed is just unlikely in most cases.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we haven't seen a lack of the smaller movie, at least, and every now and then a smaller movie really breaks through and goes huge, which is. I suspect things are much the same in Hollywood logic as they were in the 1920s. That there are certain There are certain truths to the business that never change. But it's something new will come along and set the world on fire. It always does.
Agreed. Absolutely. God, I don't know about you, Paul, if you watch For All Mankind.
Oh, I love it. I love it. My second favorite show after Foundation.
That's interesting, Paul. I haven't watched Foundation yet because I heard kind of mixed things. So I was like, all right, maybe not. Maybe I'll pass.
First season, a little bit serious. And it takes getting used to when they'll just do a caption saying 250 years later. And second season, they get Jane Espenson in, and suddenly there are jokes as well. And the reversals and the reveals, they do the best shock reveals in television. And the big stuff gets big and exciting. Nobody does big stuff like Foundation. And they've got various devices in place to mean that the same actors can keep popping up, even though they're doing big leaps. But they never cheat on that. And no, I love it to pieces. But anyway, sorry, we're talking about For All Mankind.
Well, no, but honestly, hold on a minute. Let's stick on Foundation for a minute because you mentioned Jane Espenson. It's that group of Buffyverse writers, Tim Minear and Stephen DeKnight, and all these people that continue to make excellent television. But yeah, no, tell me what you think of For All Mankind.
And it's brilliant. I really I'm a little worried by the fact that they seemed to end the latest season at a place which could be an ending if they needed to. I really need another season or two.
I so agree.
And I've just loved the point of it, the idea of you could have this adventurous future, and the way this season has concentrated on we have to look after the little people. That we can't just replicate the same mistakes we made on Earth and other planets, and it's really rare to see labor as an issue in a modern American TV, and it's brilliant to see it here.
Agreed.
So I'm wondering how long they can plausibly keep some of their main characters going now, because we're way decades down the line. It's
Joel Kinnaman's character was there during the Apollo missions of the 60s, and it's 50 years later, and he's on Mars. So yeah, I hear you, man. Yeah, ancient mariner as astronaut, essentially. Yeah, pretty cool. No, I so agree with you, man. I love the show, and as a kid, growing up with Apollo as I did, and seeing Star Trek as a little kid, and it reruns in the 70s. As silly as it also was like, well, 300 years from now, we could be on a starship touring the galaxy. It's not that impossible. They've got 3 guys orbiting the moon, landing on the moon. Who's to say what's next? So I bought it. It helped me buy into Star Trek that much more. And the level of reality, as you say, in For All Mankind, I don't think I ever asked you, Paul, what you thought of Ad Astra, the Brad Pitt astronaut movie.
I never saw it. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because Bendis and Sam Humphries are like, you like that? I'm like, yeah. Like, oh my God, it was so boring. I'm like, I thought it was intense, and it felt like a reverse mirror image of 2001 and the wonderment in 68 of where we might go and where the future might go, to like you literally see a moon base and Brad Pitt riding an escalator in this essentially airport that could be, name your favorite small airport, either in the States or in the UK, and literally passing a Subway sandwich shop, a DHL, and it's like, hey, they're on the moon. It's like, yeah, but unfortunately, it's gotten very commonplace to be on the moon at this point in history, which I loved. I just thought that was interesting.
I think we need Star Trek to say to us, look at the utopian future we could have, and keeping on reminding the human race of that is so valuable. It's dark stuff at the moment, and I like the hope of Trek very much.
Couple comments from Zach. Zach says Foundation is fantastic sci-fi. If wanting straight Asimov adaptation, that may be a sticking point, but it's sci-fi, one of the best shows on TV. And then he asks if either of us saw Godzilla -1, part of a long-running franchise, probably one of, if not the best Godzilla movie ever.
I really want to. I'm not sure it's been released over here yet.
Oh wow! Sure.
I'm looking around to see if I may have missed it. But no, I really want to see that. I've heard wonderful reviews. I'm quite a fan of the TV show Monarch, and you know you know, I've heard this from some serious SF fans of my acquaintance who wanted Foundation exactly like the books. I kind of think this is exactly like the books, because the books do not have really. They completely go past the characters. They are huge cosmic overviews of huge stretches of history. And my feeling is, if you go down into it and populate it with characters, you know, those characters might as well do these interesting things which do not contradict the books. And you know.
Well, yeah. Again, sometimes you don't want the roadmap to be exact like the original property. You know, I think Zack Snyder did a great job on Watchmen, but I really appreciated Damon Lindelof's playing in the Watchmen universe as he did in the HBO series.
That was genius.
And, giving us a different side of the world.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. Go on.
Yeah, no, I that was such an angle to take on Watchmen, and you know, a very artistic one. I thought that was wonderful.
I'm with you. Jack says, really been enjoying The English Astronaut. Yes, I want to hear about this, Paul. In the latest 2000 ADs, are you going to be doing more work for Tharg?
I really hope so. I've been talking. Thank you. I've been talking to Tharg about doing something else. I'd really like to get a long running strip, and The English Astronaut has been great fun because it's me doing a bit of Michael Moorcock and being really in your face and punky. And Laura Helsby, the artist, is fabulous. She's a little ball of fire. She's she'd hate me saying this, but she's a kid, and she's got all that kid energy. And we just did a podcast together, actually, which came out the other day. No, I'm there's another little thing I'm doing at the moment. I'm writing for Commando Comics. These are 64-page digests that have been going for something like 60 or 70 years in Britain, and they're still going at the same frequency of bi-weekly in everyday high street shops, and 64-page comics. And my nephew collects them and worships them. My nephew is a huge, full-grown man, a builder. You know, not a teeny tiny nephew.
All right.
And I thought, I'm going to have to do this because it's the only way he'll ever think I'm a proper writer. So I have a commission, and I'm going to write a single issue of Commando, for which I will be paid the princely sum of £350. And I think it'll be a nice donation to something. but I'm doing it entirely for to make my nephew pleased.
Are they military? I mean, with a title or an imprint like Commando, are they military comics? What are they?
Yeah, they are from any war up and down history. They're war stories.
That's great.
But they've been really inventive in recent years and really adding to their to what they can do. They did a recent run of Commando versus Zombies, and and you know, they're very clear that they don't want to glorify anything, and they don't want to you know, depict other races or other militaries in awful ways. Actually, I think everybody should write a Commando. And it's a good discipline because these are they have this unique page structure. In fact, I have one here.
Yeah, I'm going to zoom in. I bet I know what you're talking about, Paul, but go ahead and show us. Okay.
This is and they have basically 1 or 2 panels per page.
Indeed, yes, I have seen older versions of that. So yes, I have a couple in my collection. I understand.
These are the last survivors of a whole medium that was like that, with love stories and Star Blazer, which was the science fiction version. And I think to write for Commando is almost like for an American to write for an Archie digest. You know, it's grabbing a little slice of the classic stuff. And
formatically, because it is only 2 panels per page, is that something obviously that is a different discipline from your standard comic book page?
Very much so. The pacing is very and then, and you can't do too much with exciting page layouts or it's more like it's strangely like a movie. You have a series of very heartbeaty cuts. People will be reading these at a very steady rate, I think. And so, and I feel that way a bit about 2000 AD. I sort of felt like I had to do a longer strip for them one day, because I've done odds and ends one-offs.
Sure.
And I don't feel like a proper British comic writer until I've really contributed to 2000 AD.
So tell me about this strip, The English Astronaut. Like, what's the elevator pitch for it?
Back in the 1970s, a volunteer, Major Thomas Anderson, is put in a chair which injects him with powerful drugs and sends him to the future. And he is to visit the future to work out what 3 huge time quakes that happen to British reality are. Once he gets to the future, he discovers that his touch can bring about multiple realities. And he goes into a comic shop, which is unfortunate. And so Laura gets to draw Nemesis the Warlock, Judge Dredd, Strontium Dog.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And this is Major Tom?
Yes.
Oh, ironic naming, Paul. For those of us old enough to understand the connection, the pop culture connection. That's fantastic, man. Good Lord. Do you remember that in the 80s? I forget the person that did the sequel to the Space Oddity song, and it was from Major Tom's point of view, or from Ground Control's. Think of his name, but
he's a German artist. But
oh yes, indeed, of course it was. Yes, jeez, again, MTV. That's where I saw it.
But no, it's been a wonderful honor to work for 2000 AD on a longer basis. And some of the stuff that Dread under Rob Williams, all of them, and 3 other rotating writers, all working under John Wagner, it's so good. That's kept up a level of quality for such a long time.
Yes.
And Dread is aging in real time too.
I didn't realize that. That's cool.
They are really respecting the fact that he's an 80-something-year-old man being kept going by bionics now. And
that sounds great. Jesus. Well, I'm on the 2000 AD press list, so I'm gonna have to catch up on The English Astronaut. That's gonna be great. And I always respect the writers that come through 2000 AD, because it reminds me of certainly the Silver and Bronze Age here in the Western and military comics that DC and Marvel were putting out, because to be able to tell a cool story in 4 pages is really a skill. That's a real writing skill.
Absolutely. And it's really good at the moment. There's an awful lot of talent there.
Did you do the 2000 AD podcast recently? Is that where you and your
No, me and Laura popped up on. Let me have a look.
Honestly, because I listen as well as do podcasting. I have no level of considering other shows competition. It's like, oh, you're doing it too. Great. What are you doing? Let me hear it. So I'm always positive. I mean, we'll get to the Hammer podcast in a second as well.
Well, thank you. Here we are. The what's it called? The WMQ&A and Bat Chat podcasts. So I'm on the WMQ&A podcast.
Fair enough. All right, that's cool. And then you mentioned, of course, your partner. Is it Liz that does the Hammer podcast with you?
Together we are Hammer House of Podcast. We recorded one today about the Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. We for the last 5 years we've been watching all of the Hammer horror movies in UK release order, and we're nearly there.
I was going to say, man, because it was a good long run, but like you say, you've been doing it for 5 years.
Yeah.
So what year was Golden Vampires in?
1974, and we have one more of the classic run to go next month, and then we're doing all the modern Hammer movies. But that will only take us to December.
Will you touch on the television show? Wasn't there a Hammer anthology show as well?
There were two, but there's just too many of them. It's too many episodes. You can't do an episode about 13 episodes, and you can't do an episode about one episode. So but no, we're just going to fulfill our brief about the movies and end with Eddie Izzard in Jekyll now in December.
That's excellent. Oh, that's fantastic. Is along with dissecting the films, do you get into I would imagine there were changes in the studio, the way it operated, facing economic realities as time progressed. So is that also covered in the podcast as well?
Yeah, we very much tell the story of the studio across the podcast. And for our patrons, no matter how much money they sign up for, they get an extra episode every month where we talk about other studios from the same time and take patron requests. So that's it's been tremendously rewarding going on this journey. Liz was the Hammer fan going in, and I had seen about a quarter of the movies we've watched, and we've discovered some wonderful things we wouldn't have dreamt of watching otherwise.
James Bunt, anticipating some of my questions, has a great one here. Are you eyeing any characters that will be falling into the public domain?
Yeah, that's a really good question, isn't it? I'm not entirely sure who's about to fall into. M.R. James went public domain about a year ago, which is interesting to me. I was thinking today of something that might be coming up soon, but do you have anything particularly in mind? I mean, I'm not one of these people who's itching to make a Mickey Mouse horror story.
As we talk about Holmes, wasn't Solar Ponds, wasn't that a Holmes knockoff character? Are you aware of that character? And maybe this is an American thing.
Yeah, I've heard of Solar Ponds. Not all of Holmes. Oh no, actually, now all of Holmes is out of copyright, isn't it? It wasn't. It was the last book for a long time held out, but yeah, H.G. Wells kept going for a really long time. He died very late. I mean, otherwise, yeah. Goodness, I'm interested to hear what your correspondent has in mind. Actually, that's a really good question.
But James, if you've got any suggestions,
Yeah.
Well, and also Paul, as Mickey Mouse fell in public domain, or Steamboat Willie, I should say, that version of Mickey has fallen in domain.
I know who I was wondering about. Buck Rogers. I think it's an edge case right now, but I would love to write some Buck Rogers. When Mad Cave got the Flash Gordon license, I ran over to their table at San Diego and grabbed the hem of their garment and went, "Please let me write Flash Gordon. I would write Flash Gordon." And they're not listening so far. They're all. We'll get back to you, Paul. You know, we've got our team. You know, stay back. But inside, I think my love for Flash scared them.
Well, I'd like to see it. Did you ever write Dan Dare? Am I forgetting a Dan Dare run from you?
No, I would love to have written Dan Dare.
For the audience who may not know, essentially a British space opera hero, much like Flash Gordon, but very different.
Very, very high quality. The early run, amazing artwork and really thoughtful scripts. Really not pulpy at all, but a much more highfalutin level of adventure with Dan Dare. No, I'm a huge fan, and I keep trying to. They have a license holder who is very protective of the property, and it's very difficult to use Dan in anything. So I hope springs eternal. I mean, 2000 AD used to run a Dan Dare strip, but this is I don't know what the situation is, but it seems difficult to get hold of Dan Dare now, and that would be one of my dream things, certainly.
Well, first I'll go in chronological order. James suggested Dashiell Hammett's Thin Man will be in public domain in 5 years. So Nick Charles.
I mean, I love it. I don't know if there's still an audience for it.
And of course the trick, as I understand public domain law, and also I'm curious about the differences you might know from the UK's public domain rules and really the rest of the world, because thanks to Sonny Bono of Sonny and Cher, when he was a congressman, he extended it to this current 95-year thing. Any detective set in the 1930s. I mean, my God, Pornsack Pishat show with the Good Asian, essentially doing that kind of Hammett era detective in 1930 San Francisco and stuff. So you could see that.
I think in Britain it's 75 years after the death of the author.
Okay.
And I think that feels right. Because I very much think there should be copyright retention, because if I've created something that's really successful, I think my children and their children to some extent should be able to benefit from it.
I agree.
But I also like the idea that after they've benefited from it, it becomes something everybody can use. So I think 75 years after the death of the author is just about right. I wonder if, I don't know how Paul McCartney feels about this, but I think he's going to see some of his earliest music go into the public domain.
Wow.
And I wonder if part of him would go, well, this is sort of what I've always aspired to be, to have the music become what in brackets gets labeled as trad, rather than have a writer's name. It's become traditional. It's become just one of those songs that's always around. I think there's a certain dignity and wonderfulness to that.
I completely agree with you. Now, James mentions, and we all know, yes, around 10 years from now, Superman and Batman. Well, at least their original incarnations. And yeah, I mean, would you have interest in doing an Action 1 version or a Detective 27 version of these characters?
Well, since we live in a world where you can do the real one, I kind of, no, not really.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, I actually been there and done that in both cases. Yeah,
absolutely, man. No, that's true. That's very true. I keep saying, I just had Juergens and Mike Perkins on. I'm bummed you guys had Perkins back in your country. Yeah. We liked having him here for a long time. I really miss Mike.
He's hanging out with very friendly dude,
sweetheart of a guy. But I know they're so stoked for their Batman 39 thing that's coming out in March for Black Label. Are there Black Label level stories that would interest you, and have you tried to pitch any to DC that might be more adult versions of the DC universe?
I think the problem is my more adult would be lots more people talking about things. And I'm a huge fan of Steve Gerber, and he seemed to write very adult comics without ever having a problem with the comics code attached to them. And I every now and then, I mean, there are some times when you do want to use an 18 rated piece of language. I find that there are always workarounds and ways to, I'm not that attracted to it. And I think if I find myself doing it naturally sometimes. I have a serial on my blog continuing my Witches of Lichford books, and that's got a language rating of 18. In fact, you have to have a credit card to read it. I do allow, every now and then somebody will exclaim, "I don't know what your language rating is," so I'm not doing any examples.
You can swear, don't worry.
Somebody, every now and then somebody will say "fuck" when they would, but it's not a luxury I particularly seek out, and
Sure.
writing a whole. I actually had great trouble with Wisdom, my very first American comic, being a mature readers comic. I was kind of like, oh, what can I? This is not what I aspired to when I wanted to write for Marvel. What can I do with it? And I didn't do much with it. And when my mum and dad were still alive then, and I took them a copy, and I actually used Tip X to cover up some of the swearing and replaced it with Captain Haddock style. Asterixes and exclamation. There is actually a word for that, but I can't remember what it is.
I didn't know there was a word for it. But no, honestly, Paul, when you use the adjectives adult, I prefer more adult conversation and nuance. And you're absolutely right about Steve Gerber. I remember his Phantom Zone miniseries where that one of the Silver Age Phantom Zone villains actually reaches parole and is released to the regular world and starts a crime spree, and then Superman changes his, back when mind wiping wasn't a big deal, as now it would be. But it was so great, and this guy, he gave him a job at the planet. His name was his Earth name was Charlie, and he's having these dreams of the Phantom Zone and stuff. And I remember one of the covers of him just freaking out at some Kryptonian thing, and Superman just like, "Hang on, Charlie, we'll get out of this. Don't worry about it." But it's just like when Elliot Magin's Superman novels came out in the late 70s, and they were PG material, but it was just an adult level of dialogue. And yeah, man, that's great. That's adult comics to me, more so than an F-bomb or a boob, an uncovered boob or something.
I mean, I have no idea what a 12-year-old would make of Howard the Duck back in the day.
Well, you're talking to somebody like that, and it did kind of fly over my head. I mean, I appreciated it still to the level that I could, but yeah, no, it reads much better. It reads much better as an adult. You're right.
Yeah. But so yeah, I it is not a luxury I seek. Yeah, this is if Buck Rogers is going to come into the public domain, I might try and do something with that, because it would be good fun to be able to just do that.
Totally. No, I get it, man. James, I'm sure Paul and I agree with you on this. He just wishes that those protections didn't apply to corporations. It doesn't sit right that the grandchildren then left the page raiders in the poorhouse reaping the benefits. Yeah, man.
I guess it varies hugely case to case. I think if I'm trying to think of a case where the corporation has really nurtured something, and I kind of agree, but I wouldn't. I hesitate to make statements about everything.
No, excuse me for including you in my sentiment, but I hear what you're saying. No.
Yeah.
And sometimes the rights holders overprotect to the level of when they do release something, everyone's like, who, what? I mean, you could say that about, and I forget what Condé Nast, Street and Smith are now called, whatever conglomerate owns those proper past properties of Doc Savage and the Shadow. And it's like, yeah, here you go. And James, you mentioned absolutely we're 5 years to Doc Savage apparently, and only three to Walter Gibson's Shadow.
I might be interested in the Shadow.
See, and I wondered, Paul, because James Patterson wrote a Shadow novel within the last 5 years or so. And in fact, Steve Orlando was on my show, and he's written some really good Shadow.
Steve Orlando,
great guy, funny guy too. But yeah, we were talking about, because I asked him, I said, "Did you read the Patterson Shadow thing?" And I said, "I heard so many bad things. I kind of blew. It was only available on hardcover." And I'm like, well, if it's getting that kind of bad review, I'm not going to blow $30 on a hardcover for it,
I think it's a very fanish audience for Doc Savage now, but I think people remember the Shadow, and that's interesting. It's an interesting time for copyright law with all these things. Canadian copyright law being different. I believe there's an official James Bond novel in Canada.
Wow.
This guy can just write it. And that's an interesting situation. It's not, you can't sell it outside of Canada, I think.
Wow. Yeah. No. And again, I knew this again, coming from radio and a music radio background, that all these really interesting compilations of early rock and roll were hitting the public domain, because I think the copyright law was only 50 years or whatever. So in the early aughts, we were seeing a lot of interesting, like you said, West German only product, or whatever country would compile these things. I hear you, man. So yeah, we'll see. But I would love to see your take on the Shadow. I think especially that original idea and the agents that he had. I thought there were elements of the 90s Alec Baldwin movie that worked. It wasn't a perfect movie at all, but they did get a lot right in terms of the atmosphere.
And he's really good. He's a really good Shadow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think yes. Well, wait and see. Only the Shadow knows.
Well, that's great, man. Continued success as always. We're going to check back in with Paul in a few weeks, because he's got a creator-owned campaign that.
If you have a look online for Zoop, ZOOP, Who Killed Nessie? Me and Rachel Smith, the great cartoonist, have a comedy, rather cute cryptozoological murder mystery, and the cover she's drawn is a lot of cryptids standing around a chalk line with the line that describes the silhouette of the Loch Ness monster. Who Killed Nessie at Zoop, and you can sign up for the to be notified when the campaign starts. But thank you so much.
That's great, man. Well, we'll talk about that in a few weeks, and your collaborators welcome to join us as well for a full conversation about it. Absolutely, Paul. As always, man, I appreciate your time, your point of view, and what's going on with you. We always want to know, and are thrilled when we hear new things are along the way. So as always, keep up the fine work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And join me tonight. I'll be dipping into my radio past more with my dear friend Harry Tynowitz, and we're both going to discuss our careers in Chicago radio, but also some new projects that Harry has. And I don't know if you know this, Paul. Do you remember there was a movie? I don't know if it reached the UK shores. It was a terrible movie. It was a teen comedy. Mad Magazine presents Up the Academy.
No, never heard of it.
It was in the vein of Animal House, and it was so bad that William Gaines demanded that Mad Magazine's name be taken off the film. and Harry was one of the stars of it, and it was this very strange, because it was about adolescence. They weren't of age yet, and it was kind of a weird half sex comedy, half kids at a military academy hijinks. And it was just wrong for all the wrong reasons. It would not get made today. That's how bad this movie was. But I want to go over with Harry and our own radio adventures as well. So that's tonight, and it will be at 9 o'clock Eastern time. So if people watching want to join us again for another Word Balloon Live, that's what we're doing. Until next time, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.